Hello and welcome back to This Complex Life. Today I am answering the question, why won't my teen talk to me? I get a variation of this question a lot, and parents often talk to me about asking their child questions like, how was school, how was your day? And maybe they get like a grunt or a nod or a shrug, and they're pulling their hair out. They just don't know what to do. Today we're going to take a look at this common issue for families, why won't my teen talk to me? And I want to stress that this is actually quite common. I get this a lot, and it doesn't have to be that way. It is normal developmentally for teens to start to gravitate towards their friends. We know that their peers become a big part of their lives. They want to spend more time together. They want to hang out with them. They want to go to them with their issues, their problems, or just spend time together and move away a little bit from the family. Part of that is normal. Where this can be a particular challenge is when the connection with the family isn't strong. So if peers are pulling them towards them and parents don't have that connection, then we can encounter some issues. We can encounter some challenges when friends are the ones who are more influential and teens are going to them for advice around big issues, big concerns, and they've got their ear rather than the parents. We still want teens to be able to go to their parents for comfort, for support, and for guidance, and not run away from them. There are a number of reasons for that, and I'm going to go through some of them today. But one of the big ones is that communication has broken down because of a lack of connection, and they've lost that connection with the parents. This can have a big impact, not just on the teen, but on the parents. It can leave parents feeling disconnected, rejected, alone, isolated, angry, and then they can respond from that perspective and can create a lot of conflict. We don't want that. So today I'm going to go through the top 5 mistakes that I see parents make when trying to communicate with their teen. And then I'm going to share some ways that you can try to rebuild the connection. Let's get started. The number one problem I see is trying to fix things instead of listening. I know it might sound really strange, but people often don't want their problems fixed. They just want to be heard, empathized with, and validated. And if your teen is saying things, you're like, oh, you just don't understand, or you're just not getting it, or you never listen to me, you might be doing this one. Often parents try to solve their teens' problems, and this is not always what they want. They often want to feel heard, empathized with, and validated. And trying to jump in and fix the problem can actually leave them feeling frustrated, misunderstood. They might say things to you like, you never listen to me, or you just don't understand. And parents are sitting there like confused and perplexed. They don't understand why their teen's saying this. Now, this might have built up over time. It might not just be this week, this month. It could be that gradually over time, this has been part of the dynamic that's been created where they've tried to share something and you've gone in and tried to fix it. Maybe they've applied for a job and they put in a resume in their local bakery and they didn't hear back. And they said to you, oh, I didn't hear back from that job. And you jumped in with, well, have you tried this? Have you gone in? Did you polish your shoes? Did you go in with a shirt and tie? Did you iron your shirt? Did you you could send more resumes? I could print some out for you. Do you want me to have a look at it? Do you want me to read your cover letter? And you've gone in with all these ideas and all these solutions instead of listening to what they were saying. And so lots and lots of these instances can leave them feeling a bit disconnected and not want to come to you when things are bothering them because they don't feel heard. They're not feeling listened to. Sometimes I see that parents really want to take away the anxiety or the sadness, and so they jump in to try and fix it, and that doesn't help. We don't want the problem necessarily gone. We want to feel that we're not alone in that problem. We want to be heard, empathized with, and validated. So the number one mistake I see people make is trying to fix it. So please, if that's you, try something different. The second mistake I see people make, and it's very much linked to the first, is offering too many solutions and overwhelming them. Now, this links in with trying to fix it. Giving too many solutions and too many options can feel really overwhelming, and sometimes that can lead to a lot of pressure and anxiety. Not only can it feel overwhelming, it can also lead them to think that you don't trust them to make a decision, that you're offering all these ideas like they haven't thought of it themselves. And sometimes I see young people get all these ideas given to them and solutions and people jumping in, and no one's ever actually asked them, what have you already tried? What would you like to do? What have you considered? Or even just giving them some time to take a breath, to calm down, or to manage their own emotions and then problem solve together or nut things out or brainstorm. Give them space to do this themselves. The third mistake I see people make is being judgmental. And I can guarantee that we've all done this. I do it too. I make these mistakes. Sometimes people say things or do things and you think, how on earth could you have thought that that was okay? But frequent, repeated acts of this can really rupture that connection. Remember, connection is one of the most important things for a relationship. Now, this is not just when they're telling you things about themselves, but it's when they're sharing things about their friends. Think about them coming home from school and saying, oh, my friend Samantha went out on a date with a boy and she didn't tell her parents and blah, 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 blah. If you jump in with, how dare she, I can't believe she's going out with boys straight away, what would her parents think of her? And you start judging the friend, that's already giving your child a bit of a gauge, kind of the barometer's kind of moving of where you sit on particular things. So that kind of judgment, even around something that they're sharing about a friend, sits in the back of their mind. They kind of store that away. So try not to be judgmental. It even counts when you're commenting on other people outside of the family home. So this comes up a lot when we look at things like body shape and size or academic achievement or something like that. So if you're watching TV or you're reading a magazine or you're scrolling through social media on your phone and you're commenting on other people saying, I can't believe they would wear that, or who would let them go out like that, or that person looks terrible in that, what was she thinking? Those sort of comments, they do pile up, and your teen is observing you and they're watching out for what you say and they're forming an idea. This comes up a lot with some of the young people that I work with. They are very, very nervous about talking to their parents about gender or sexuality because at some point they have very distinct memories of their parents commenting negatively to someone else, using derogatory or homophobic language to describe someone else or in a TV show or to describe a friend or a colleague or a family member, and they file that away. So they've just learned that that's not safe to go to that person for that because that's going to be judgmental. And fitting in with that is also being critical. So this happens a lot, and life gets busy and chaotic, and you've got schools and school pickups and drop-offs and lunches and dinners and extracurricular activities and people working and pets to feed and all sorts of things happening. It can be really easy to just say, you never clean up, you never do this, you don't do that, you're always running late, you're never studying. They're all very critical things. We're looking at a particular action or a behavior, and then we're labeling the person as being somehow ill-equipped or inept. We want to focus on that moment, that action, that behavior. We're running late, we have to go. Another part of this is criticizing your teen when they're coming to you for support or to debrief. And I used this one example in a workshop I ran recently where I role played being a young person who came home from school and said, oh, it's so unfair, I got held in at recess. And the parents straight away jumped in, why'd you get held in? What did you do? What happened to the teachers' instructions? Why weren't you listening? Why weren't you following them? And started picking it out and trying to figure out what went wrong. So they already didn't listen. They tried to fix it. They jumped in with solutions and ideas, and none of that was helpful. Instead, what I would have liked them to try is saying, that's disappointing. What happened? Oh, that's no good. And then maybe that's it. Maybe that's where the conversation stops. Or if the conversation is really kind of meaty and juicy and you're getting stuff out of it, you could say, what could you do different next time? They might already know. They might already have a really good idea of, yeah, I was probably mucking around too much and I got in trouble, and that was a fair enough consequence. And that might be it. Repeated acts of jumping in, of trying to fix it, of being critical, of trying to figure out what they did wrong, that phrase, that connection. And that connection is your biggest, most important piece in this relationship. The fourth mistake is not allowing dignity of risk. We need to be able to make mistakes. We need to be able to fall down if we're going to pick ourselves back up. Resilience comes from actually falling down, dusting yourself off, and getting back up. Physically and metaphorically, we need to be able to trip over and know that, oh, I tripped over, I can dust myself off, keep going. Swinging on the monkey bars, fall over, dust myself on, give it another go. And the same goes with making decisions. Now, I'm not saying let them run wild and do whatever they want, whenever they want, with no consequences or boundaries. Obviously, there needs to be boundaries, and there needs to be some form of consequence or guidelines around what will happen if they don't follow those parameters. But there has to be some room to make some mistakes, to allow for getting it wrong, to allow for missing a deadline, to allow for running late and living with the natural consequence of that. There has to be some opportunity to make mistakes and to learn from it. Figure out as they get older what you're comfortable to let them do, and slowly let them do it. That might be simple, like cooking, burning something, and then they learn, oh, I better not do that again. We need to give them some opportunities to make mistakes. Okay, so overprotective parenting can really hinder their ability to take risks that are necessary for the development. And the last one, the fifth mistake that I see parents make, is not changing their role, not moving from manager to consultant. I've talked about this a lot in previous episodes, and it's one of my favorite analogies. And when your child's young, they need you in that manager role. They need you there cutting the crusts of sandwiches, organizing play lunches, walking them to the school gate. And somewhere at the end of primary school, early high school, they fire you from that role. And that can be really confronting to parents. Parents might try to claw back connection. They might feel hurt, rejected, act out of anger, make snide comment, or a whole bunch of stuff can happen. What you need to be able to do is to get rehired back as the consultant. So that's still being a person of influence. That's still being important. It's still offering support and advice with permission when invited, and walking side by side with them. And that shift can help preserve the emotional connection and help them feel respected, that you respect their autonomy, that you respect their ability to give things a go and make mistakes, rather than being micromanaged. So how can you rebuild communication and connection? I'm going to give you some of my top tips for this. The first one is active listening. So this is listening way more than you speak. It could be that you paraphrase what you hear, ask open-ended questions like, tell me more, what did you do next? What have you already thought about? What advice would you give a friend if they're in a similar position? So it's opening up the dialogue. Don't offer solutions. Don't jump in and try and fix it. And if you're busy and they're coming to you with something really important and you're thinking, oh my goodness, I'm trying to cook dinner, listen to someone else, the cat's hungry, the dog needs to be walked, now you're coming to me with your important stuff, I just can't. It's okay to say, I can see this is really important to you and I'm really busy now and I want to make sure that I'm really available for you. Can we talk about this after dinner? How about we go for a walk with the dog, or I'll come up to your bedroom and we can have a bit of a chat then. So feel free to put a pin in it, but say when you're going to revisit that conversation and you initiate that. As part of active listening is empathy and validation. Now, validation doesn't mean you have to agree with them. It means that you can understand their experience. So if they're coming to you and saying, it's not fair that the teacher kept me in after class, you might think, well, the teacher was in their right mind to. You broke the rules, you didn't do your homework, you blah, blah, blah. That's fine. We don't need to say anything about the teacher. We can just say from their point of view, based on what they've shared and how they see it, that it feels unfair. It doesn't mean you agree that it's unfair, but it can be that you say, hey, I can see why that would feel unfair. Validate that. Understand that that's what they're going through. You don't have to agree. It doesn't have to be your version of the event. It doesn't have to be even what really happened, but it's what they felt in that moment. It's their perspective. The second tip is to create space for autonomy. So that's giving them more and more opportunities to take risks and to learn from their mistakes. And don't be critical when they make a mistake. So if you're going to give them a chance to maybe cook dinner once a week and they burn it, that's fine. I've burnt dishes. I've made mistakes. I've burnt cakes. I've not followed instructions. I've wasted time and energy preparing something that has turned out completely terrible. That's okay. Finding ways to help them make mistakes safely, to give them opportunities to take on more responsibility and see what happens and learn from that is really, really important. So if we can give them chances to take risks in a boundaried way, they're going to learn that they can deal with it. They're going to learn resilience and they're going to think that you trust them. And that's really important. And the last one is to rebuild trust. So if you've actually noticed that you've done some of those things that I said before are really unhelpful, or some of the mistakes, it might be that you go and apologize for it. You might say, hey, yesterday when you were telling me about your day at school, I jumped in with all these ways and ideas to fix it, and I think I missed what you were really trying to tell me. Can we talk about that again? Or I'm really sorry, I'll try again better next time. You can actually overt the things that you got wrong and show them that it's actually okay to take accountability for something and to apologize when you don't get it right. So I hope you enjoyed that. This is part of a mini series all around connection, and you can download the free ebook, My Teen Won't Talk to Me. And if you're interested in learning more, come and join me in my Connected Teens program. It's a 6-week parenting course incorporating all of these value-based exercises and activities and getting you thinking about your parenting style, how you were parented, and how you would like to parent.